Hey Deadheads, what happens when a device that you like, a device that you enjoy, evolves? Well, it becomes something better, something more than its predecessor. And this is what we have, the all-new Wind Chasers 2. It's a great device. We're going to take a look at it today and do a review. So stay tuned, Deadheads. Hey Gary, look what we got. No wait, that's not me. Hey Deadheads, welcome back to our channel. Or welcome for the first time, new Deadheads. So today we're going to do a review of this guy right here. This is the Wind Chaser 2. This thing released last month. I've been using this and playing this quite a bit. It has the 6 Sega style fighting face buttons on it. It is running on the Lovechild 3566. And it is a very capable device. It's using the screen from the GKD Mini Classic Plus. And this is a pretty good device. We reviewed the original one a few months ago, so I'll leave a link in the description to check that out. Remember to hit that comment section and leave us some comments, Deadheads. I'm going to be trying to change this up and do a little bit different formatting based on some suggestions. Anyways, let's start looking at this guy. We'll see what it can do. The Wind Chaser 2 is a passion project, a love project. It is a small batch device made in China that is starting to appear on AliExpress. I'm not sure if it's going to have a little more widely distributed presence than the previous one, but this is a device that is made with a premium metal shell. Ozone is a name known overseas in China that has developed and been continuing to develop many different sort of unique handheld form factors using metal shells and designing things using other parts in collaboration with many other collaborators such as Liu Zhang. This guy right here is the second generation of a device that we reviewed earlier this year. So we'll take a look at them just side by side, and you can see that there is an evolution here a little bit. First of all, this guy is more heavy. It is a more solid type of metal. This is a mixture of CNC aluminum, which is lighter, along with some ABS plastic. So I like this because it still feels firm and premium, but now it's lighter. This is much heavier. So one of the criticisms of using metal shells has been the heaviness. And so you do get a bit of a trade-off here. This does feel a little bit more solid. Like if I was going to drop this, I would be a little more feeling secure with this one versus this guy right here, which is just a little bit less heavy and dense, but still feels pretty good. It's using pretty much the same design language that the first version had, with some upgrades, including the shape of where the buttons are and the addition, more importantly, of the analog stick. Now, why would this guy have an analog stick? Well, the biggest change here is the CPU. This has been upgraded to a Lovechild 3566. The CPU in this was fairly ancient and running a MIPS-based CPU, so it had a lot of limitations. The other biggest design here is this had a big of a hump right here for a bit of a grip. This is a little bit more subtle on the grip, which I think just feels better in the hands overall. There were some criticisms in China I saw about the materials. Some of the units had a crack going down right here. Our unit is fine. We didn't have that, but I didn't see it on the silver colorway. But some of the other units did have that sort of criticism coming to it. So again, there was a trade-off in going with the lower quality but lighter CNC aluminum versus the material used in this handheld. So let's take a look closer at this guy, and you can see that it has this nice 3.5-inch screen right here. It does have the analog stick, which is a switch style stick. It is clicky. It is pretty nice. It is in set just enough so you can have a cap on it like I put on here. and the D-pad that I absolutely love. These D-pads, this is my favorite style of D-pad ever. With the round rocker, I just really like this D-pad quite a bit, and this one works just as good as the previous model. You do have your face buttons here, which are labeled both with your PlayStation style, and then it's hard to see in this lighting, but on the top you do have your A, B, X, Y that is actually indented in the material there, the plastic molding. So they have kind of both here, which is kind of nice. You have your C and your Z right there. Really like that touch. Your start and your select. And then you have right here on the previous model was a hole for the speaker. I'm not sure what they do here to change this. That's pretty kind of interesting here, but it does have that right there. On the side here, you have a little, I guess this is for a lanyard. Haven't really tried that. Lanyards are not something I would use on a handheld this size. Then you have your menu button. This was missing in this. That is another huge upgrade. In the original, there was no menu button, and so you had to do a lot of things with combination buttons to get menus to work. So I really like that they added that menu button to this. On the top here, you do have a reset button, you have your power button, you do have an HDMI mini out, your headphone jack, and then you have your system card up here. And on the bottom, you do have your games card. So it does have 2 slots for cards. You do have your standard centered USB-C. And this does charge with USB-C to C. Your inline shoulder buttons are nice. I do like these. I like the feel of this, holding the grip. It's really nice, so it feels really nice in the hands, and really enjoy this. I added this logo on here, so this didn't come with it. The original one I got did have the Wind Chasers logo on it. This one does not, so not really sure what's going on with that. But again, this is a really nice handheld. It feels nice. The weight is better than the previous one. You have your volume rocker down here, and then you have your speaker vents. So let's fire this guy up, and let's just take a look, and let's see what this guy can do. So it does ship with a version of Emulation Station, along with a version of their built-in software, the same kind that you see on the GKD Pixel. So it does have both of those. It's called Lovejoy. Let me just reboot here, and I'll show you what it looks like, since I got it right here in the Lovechild, I'm sorry. And if you want to go into that, you can go into that. I don't really like that system. I prefer the Emulation Station, but we'll just boot into it and show you guys what Lovechild looks like. This is something that if you have a GKD Pixel, you're pretty familiar with. And it does just give you another way to kind of do this. But I do appreciate the fact that this does have Emulation Station, as that is just, you know, a really good standard, especially for this CPU. It does come with quite a few games, and again, I'll leave a link in the description where you can pick one of these up on AliExpress if you're looking to pick one up. But you can see that this does have one of their themes, the lure themes, but it does come with some other themes, and I've added some extra ones on here. We know a lot about the CPU and what its limitations are, what it can play, what it can't play. So again, it's just really more for this form factor about what you're getting as far as being able to use those 6 buttons and use that fighting style. You can also assign these buttons in the software, so that's always nice to give it a little bit more specific of what you want to do here. We'll go in and we'll try some PlayStation Portable on here, which we know is not the best system that's going to run on the CPU, but with some tweaks, you can certainly get it to do some of the things you want to do. Mortal Kombat is one of my favorite series ever. Certainly really enjoy this game. This particular version is not necessarily one of my favorites, but we'll play it since they included this on the PSP. And this version had some weird characters. Sometimes I think they've kind of went a little too far, but you know, I digress. Again, has a nice feel to it. You can see that it's with this CPU we're getting pretty much standard performance. I am running this again. It has this really handy button right here. I like that, so we can go in and configure, and we can do the settings here, and we can show you that I have this running at a 2x using OpenGL. We do not have Vulkan, so we're using OpenGL. But I do have this running at 2x, and I am getting over 40 frames per second in most of the game. It does dip from time to time. But you can see it's not terrible. It's running pretty good as far as PSP emulation goes. But again, this D-pad is really nice. And again, having these buttons right here for fighting is just really kind of cool and kind of gives it that style, especially if you're a Gen Xer like me and had a lot of time in the early 90s spending button mashing on these 6-button units. I am a sucker for fighting games with this layout, and again, it's just nice to be able to have that. Of course, you do have your shoulder buttons if you want to use those as well, but you know, this is just a really good way to kind of set your controls up and do a 6-button style system for there. Even the 3-button style, if you're playing something like the TurboGrafx 16 and want to do the 3-button style on there, you have that kind of at your ability. So you can see that we're getting pretty expected performance on this. It's the screen looks pretty good, this 3.5-inch screen. And it's not the best aspect ratio for PSP, but it's very doable. That was pretty bloody. So let's take a look at what I like about this and what I don't like, and we'll wrap up this video, guys. And let's start with what I did like. So the first thing, obviously, that I like is the 6-button layout. This is really nice to have that 6-button layout, especially when you're playing on some of the arcade fighters. So there is a ton of arcade ROMs out there, and certainly can make the most of this handset. So the 6-button layout is favorable. The buttons themselves are good, conductive membrane. They're nice and clicky. The travel distance is good. So I really enjoy that quite a bit. Again, it makes for a nice time with these fighting games to kind of give you that 6-button flexibility. See, I still have the habit of trying to use the shoulder buttons, but you really don't have to, which kind of helps you grip on this a little better. The other thing I really love about this is the D-pad and the build quality. It definitely has a great build quality. As you can see, they have made some compromises, but this thing has balanced the premium feel of metal along with making it just a little bit more lighter in the hand and not as heavy. So I think they've found a really good place to be considering those factors. I also like the fact that it's got the upgraded CPU. The Rockchip 3566 is in a lot of devices. The RGB30 has this, so we know quite a bit what's going on here. No idea if there's going to be any custom firmware from the likes of Rocknix or Arc OS. It would be nice to get those running on here, but again, this is a very limited run, so I'm not sure if you pick one of these up, if you will be able to get any custom firmware other than what has shipped with it. The analog stick button is good because it's just one, so that's perfect for PSP gaming or your PlayStation 1 or N64. You don't need the second stick, so why waste the space? The chip's not going to do a whole lot of things that would need a second stick. It's not going to do enough that's going to do the first one, so that's another very favorable thing. I like that it has the centered USB-C port. That's a very favorable thing for it. Some of the things that I don't like, so obviously, I don't like that this stops at the RK3566. It would have been nice if this could have somehow had a T618. However, we do know this is using a donor device, and so they had to go with what that donor device had in it. I also wish that this had Wi-Fi. Metal shells and Wi-Fi are definitely something that is a little bit tricky. If it does have Wi-Fi, I can't get it working, and I couldn't find anywhere online to confirm whether it does have Wi-Fi built in or not. So I'm not sure if it was removed from the Mini Plus Classic or if it just doesn't have it. I also wish that we had more custom firmware. Since this is a 3566, it would be nice if we could get something like ArcOS or even the older version of Gelos running on it. That would certainly make it a little more attractive, definitely. And then finally, the biggest criticism is the price. This thing is running for, I picked it up at $170. I think that's still way too much for an RK3566. Even with the premium fill and the metal shell, this will be much more better in the 120 to 130 price range. If we're going to get a premium metal shell and you're going to go at 170, you're much better with the RG405M, although you're not going to get the 6 buttons. So if you're a real hardcore arcade player that really loves this 6-button layout, then perhaps, you know, this price range would be for it. Unless you're a collector or you just have really specific needs, I think that this is probably still priced out of range, although I understand because it's small batch, it kind of has to be, and it's premium. So guys, again, this is going to be a very niche device for certain specific audiences. For me, it's something that I like and enjoy and play quite a bit. Specifically though, I do use the 6 buttons and I do like to do this with fighters, and so I've loaded this up with that. So anyways, I hope you guys have enjoyed this review of the Wind Chaser 2. I do think that it has a lot of favorable advantages over the original. But again, just like with some of the other stuff I'm highlighting on my channel, these are very specific niche devices for a very specific audience. And if you are that audience, then yeah, man, this is worth it. Anyways, guys, hope you guys have a great rest of your week. And this is Dead Fred out. See you next time.